Adam Warlock and Ultron are both called battle support, but only one of them actually works. Today, I'm going to be breaking down why Adam Warlock's kit is a masterclass in support design, while Ultron's feels like a DPS pretending to heal. Battle supports are very different from main support. Instead of focusing on keeping the team alive and at 100%, battle support's playstyle involves mostly DPSing with decent damage and a small amount of healing, but they usually make up in the low stats by having something in their kit that is very versatile. There are 3 things a battle support should be able to do to be worth using. First, they should have healing. Not much of a support if you can't keep your team healthy. Second, to be able to peel for your supports or give them enough reliable protection for a dive. And third, have respectable damage to be able to squeak out a kill on an enemy backline. Adam Warlock doesn't have a ton of healing. Stat-wise, he is going to be at the bottom of the barrel, but he does in fact have the best form of healing, being burst healing. Avatar Livestream is Adam's main source of healing. It can bounce up to 2 allies or just stay on 1, and each time it bounces, it heals for 95, capable of healing a total amount of 190. If you include the self-healing it does, it goes up to 225, and he has 2 charges of this. This ability by itself is very versatile. Not only can it burst heal an ally or 2 very quickly, it can also be used on himself as well. So if he's getting dove, one press of a button is all he needs to be back at full health. This ability alone can save himself or a teammate from a ton of pressure, whether it's in the backline or one of your tanks. Adam has amazing range, being able to position himself a little in front of the main healer and still be in healing range of all of his team. But he shines best when he is in the center of his team because of his second ability, Soul Bond. Soul Bond creates a link with all of his allies in a 15-meter radius, healing them over time and spreads out all the damage taken from one ally to everyone across the bond, up to a max of 250 per player. This ability can be used in a lot of different ways, but mainly used for something like a heavy burst ultimate, examples being Storm and Magneto. Soul Bond is just as good as a normal support ultimate would be, letting your team survive an enemy ultimate while you get to save yours. Pair this up with your healing stream and Adam shuts down any enemy attempts to burst down or focus anyone on his team. So he is great at countering a dive since every DPS character is loaded with burst damage, and Adam can become a meddling kid and foil all their plans. And not to mention his primary attacks. Quantum Magic is a head scan doing 60 damage per shot, firing 2 shots every second. He can easily kill the magic if they aren't too busy slamming their hands onto their keyboards to skillfully get a kill. And he can put a fair share of pressure on the enemy frontline while being very time efficient with his healing. That also gets the cooldown cut down if he lands a headshot, giving him more reason to have a good aim so he could also heal much more. Not to mention, if Adam does die, he has Regenerative Cocoon, which is just a free revive he has every 100 seconds. The best part is if his team is losing a fight, he has the option to just save it for the next fight. But if he dies, and his team gets wiped, he could also just go in a corner and revive every ally in a 30-meter radius once. This is a game-changing ultimate that could turn a losing fight just by reviving 1 or 2 allies. This cocoon is also given to allies in his team up, Soul Perseverance, which gives Star-Lord and Mantis a revive. If your healing cup involves having both Adam and Mantis as your only healers, then you are actively committing the ranked version of 9/11. Doing this team up with Star-Lord though is very beneficial, since keeping Star-Lord up at all times means he gets to farm his very busted ultimate a lot quicker. But this team up also gives Adam a 50% healing bonus, bringing the total healing per life stream to 220, which is 260 if you include the self-healing, and his Soul Bond to 17 health a second. Adam has great versatility in helping his team survive bursts and survive through major game-winning ultimates. But now, let's see what Ultron brings to the table. Oh, I already covered Ultron on my previous video, so I'm only going to give you the gist of his kit and the problems with it. Ultron's main, only source of healing is Imperative Patch, healing the ally with the drone by 45 healing a second and allies around it by 30 health a second. But this ability has drawbacks, having two conditions that hinders Ultron's ability to DPS. First, he can't be further than 30 meters away from an ally. Depending on the map and the hero he's placing his drone on, this can be a problem. But most of the time, a 30-meter range restriction will not affect Ultron's gameplay, as much if he decides to place it on a tank and sticking by them the whole game. The second condition is having line of sight with your allies at all times. You do have a 5-second grace period to get back in line of sight. Since he can't just place his drone and go find an off angle, Ultron has to choose his positioning more carefully, otherwise he won't be healing. Ultron's whole playstyle revolves around dealing damage, and only having 2 spots on each map to effectively damage and not have downtime applying his healing drone, otherwise he's going to start lacking in one of his stats because a rock is blocking his line of sight. This makes predicting where Ultron is going to position himself every game very easy. Since there's not much cover for flyers compared to on-the-ground heroes, Ultron has to decide if taking in position on the map to prioritize healing or picking a good off angle to get more damage in the backline, but only having his drone down for half the time. But considering there's just simply a better support that can do AoE healing, most of the time you aren't playing Ultron for the interests of the team. You play him because you are last to pick and the only option left is support, but you don't want to support. You need that dopamine. So Ultron's kit caters to the DPS players that are forced to support, which is even worse since they're going to prioritize healing even less than a support main playing Ultron. Ultron has a second ability, Imperative Firewall. When used, gives him and his team bonus health that his drone also activates. It's not a bad ability, but it's also not very good. For your allies, it only gives 55 bonus health, which is 1 second of healing his drone gives, which is horrible, since Adam could deal that amount of damage in half a second. On paper, 55 bonus health sounds pretty good, but most characters in the game do that much damage in a single shot. And considering he gains more health than his team does, he has more reason to just use it on himself, promoting an even more selfish playstyle. Just looking at Ultron's numbers, with no falloff damage, Adam actually out-DPS's Ultron by 40 damage. And with falloff, Ultron only does 0.5 more damage than Adam does. But that doesn't include Adam's potential to land a headshot. So Adam can do what Ultron is designed to do, but even better. Ultron's ultimate is very weak. It tries to do both damage and heal, but gets overshadowed by the other ultimates who fill that role better. A normal support ultimate will out-heal Ultron's ultimate healing. And considering Ultron only heals himself for 50 health a second, it only takes 2 enemies to start shooting at Ultron to kill him. The damage he does isn't great either, being out-damaged by an entire team that would be shooting at him in an actual immortality support ultimate, and not to mention the range. Realistically, only hitting 1 player at a time, since most enemies will just spread out, and teammates would rather not bother grouping up and just go out and do their own thing. His ult is very fair, but if you want to win, choosing a stronger, more reliable ultimate to keep yourself and your team alive is just a better option. Ultron's Nano Ray team up gives him a beam that pierces, healing allies 85 health a second and damaging enemies for 70 a second. It's not a bad ability, it's just not reliable since it's going to be down for 22 seconds once you're done using it. A lot could happen in that time frame. So when he does have that insane damage and healing, it's only going to be once every team fight. But a plus side to it, it's not a bad way to build your ult. Okay, let's say you were unfortunate enough to get a penny player on your team. Sorry if this has ever happened to you. So this useless sack of garbage overextends and is under heavy fire. So she is forced to walk back in the middle of the open. Adam, just using a soul bond, almost guarantees that she makes it out alive. And if not, he will have 2 charges of Avatar Livestream to keep her going all the way to safety. But if Ultron's in that situation, what is he going to do? 45 healing a second isn't going to cut it. The whole team is looking at her, and there's not a universe where 6 players do less than 45 damage a second. Firewall? Don't make me laugh. I mean, Adam does that in a single shot. If Ultron has his team up, he will have to use it. But it takes a second for his animation to finish, and by then, Penny has already constructed a 35-page thesis on why Ultron sucks big hairy testicles in the chat. But if somehow Penny survives that long, his nano beam should be enough to prevent Penny from dying. But the difference in both of these characters is that Adam could take half a second to heal, then start putting pressure back into the enemy, while Ultron blows all his abilities and can't shoot back unless positioned in the perfect angle. To be fair to Ultron though, there are situations where his sustained healing shines. When you're facing constant chip damage, think Skullgirl's AoE or Moon Knight's ricochets, Ultron's 45 healing per second actually keeps pace better than Ultron's burst healing on cooldown. Adam can save someone from getting bursted. But if the whole team is taking 20 to 30 damage every few seconds for 2 minutes straight, those 6-second cooldowns on livestream start to hurt. Ultron just negates that chip damage entirely. But here's the thing, most games aren't decided by slow chip damage. They're decided by big plays, dives, and burst damage. And that's exactly where Adam dominates. Adam enables his team to make plays, while Ultron forces his team to enable him by needing them to play triple support and have an Iron Man to try to reach the levels of a meta pick. Adam has low healing, but doesn't really need a triple support comp if the enemy team doesn't have a lot of damage over time characters. Ultron is good against AoE damage, but Rocket has a more reliable kit that sweeps him in that department. While Adam does the same damage and healing, but has Soul Bond and arguably a better support ultimate. The only time I'd recommend Ultron is if you're specifically facing a comp with multiple chip damage dealers and your team already has a main healer to cover burst scenarios. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, or else you will get a penny main in your ranked games for the rest of your life.